Hello, class. This is Manuel speaking, and today we're gonna study how to give advice in English, and we're gonna cover different grammar topics. So this is gonna be a rather complex video. So let's get started. Giving advice is something that can be done in many different things, in many different ways. Sorry, in English. That's why I decided to divide the video into the basic part and a more advanced part. First, we're going to study. Give me a second. First, we're going to study modal verbs. The modals should and ought to are the most common when it comes to give advice. However, they are not the only ones. We can use certainly can, may, might to give advice too. But these two, should and ought to, are probably the most common because what they mean is debería, right? And that's the perfect verb to give advice, right? Like debería viajar, for example. In this case, you would say you should travel to Ecuador in July, or you ought to travel to Ecuador in July. Now, notice how the word should does not require anything else. It's just should, and the verb is normal. Whereas the word ought requires the particle to. All right, so that's important to remember. And that's it. You can use that structure for any person, for you, for he, for they. You could say they should travel to Ecuador. She should travel to Ecuador. My sister should travel to Ecuador. Whatever person you can think of, whatever pronoun you can think of, you can use it with that structure, and the same goes for ought to. Now, another typical structure and a very basic one, even though it doesn't look so basic at first sight, is had better. Now, it looks complicated because the word had is the past tense of have, and better is a comparative, but here, for some reason, we're not comparing anything and we're not referring to the past. We are just giving a suggestion. And when you say you had better lose weight, it basically what it means is más vale que in Spanish, right? So that's it. If a doctor is telling his patient, más vale que pierda peso, más vale que no coma comida grasosa, well, she may be using had better. Something like, you had better lose weight, you better lose weight. There is the contracted form, but it's the same meaning. Or you better not eat fast food. Notice how in the negative form, in the negative advice, the particle not goes after better, not after had. That's important to remember, right? So it's you better not you hadn't better. You better not eat fast food, all right? If you want to give a negative advice, and that's it. Now let's see all the structures in just one slide. The, there you have it. You should take an aspirin. You have better see a doctor. You shouldn't run so fast. That's something I forgot to mention first time I introduced should. Negative advice with should is possible, for sure. It's just a matter of adding the particle not to the word should, and that's it. And you can have you should not, or you can contract it and end up having you shouldn't. But it's still the same meaning, right? It's no debería. Um, you ought to sleep early, and you had better not drink cold water are two more examples of these very simple structures that you can use to give advice. We have one more slide when we have, again, these typical structures in English with the words should, ought to, and have better. And like I said, they are very basic, and if you want to stop here, that's okay. With this knowledge, you should be able to make a video, for example, on how to give advice um, as to the kind of food you should eat every day, right? For example, you can say something like, you should eat more vegetables, you should drink more water, you shouldn't drink so much soda, you better not eat so many hamburgers, and so on and so forth. All right, and it may sound repetitive, but remember these are basic structures, and if you don't want to get into trouble, that's okay. That's just perfect. Now, if you want to go ahead, well, there there's more, right? And Here we have basically the same kind of advice given in different forms. And I did it that way because I think it's better um, for us to see the contrast if we use the same example. So notice how the first two sentences are the ones that we're already familiar with, the word should and the word had better. And the advice we're giving is for the person to eat more vegetables. But we can certainly use questions to give advice, which is something rather ironic, but it is what it is, and it's the same in Spanish. It's like, for example, when we ask a person, "Oiga usted por qué no va al doctor?" Right. We're not really expecting an answer. We're not really expecting an explanation as to why the person does not go to the doctor. We are suggesting him or her to go to the doctor. That's basically it. It's the same in English. We have these questions, and they are not real questions. They are advice. They are pieces of advice. And notice the differences in structure. Notice how the first question, "Why don't you eat?" is a typical question in present tense. But the second question, "How about eating?" requires that the verb requires the verb to be in ing form. How about eating? All right. The same goes for the next question. How have you thought about eating more vegetables? Or the last question, what if you eat more vegetables? They are basically the same thing. They are just different ways of giving advice, giving the same piece of advice. They are not the only ones. We can certainly use the model would to give advice. Again, I wrote the first two sentences with the same example again, so you can see the contrast much better. And we have the sentences using would to give advice. I would suggest eating more vegetables is a sentence that is very, very close in meaning to the second one. I would recommend eating more vegetables. Once again, notice the use of the word eat in ing form. It's eating. If you say I would suggest eat more vegetables, that would be weird. And the last structure is a conditional sentences. If I were you, I would eat more vegetables. Now this sentence is rather special because if you know past tense, you should know that normally we use the word was when it comes to pronoun I, but that's in past. This is not past, this is a conditional form. I don't want to get into a lot of detail. I just want to let you know that this is okay. This is not a mistake, right? And that's it. Um, let's practice a little bit. Um, we have to give advice to a person who wants to lose weight. Now, let's give him three pieces of advice. Let's tell this person to eat less. Let's tell him to do exercise and to drink more water. And I want you to use the different structures that we covered in the video: should, ought to, had better. And if you feel you're capable of doing so, well, go ahead and use the questions, the negative questions, use would, and let's give advice on how to lose weight using eat less, do exercise, and drink more water. Let's pause the video, all right? I want you to pause the video and write down your advices, right? Okay, class, I hope you did so. So your sentences, if you did them, should look something like this. First three are very basic ones, with should and had better. You should eat less, you have better do exercise, you should drink more water. And the next three on last three, well, I use questions and I use would. Why don't you eat less? How about doing exercise? Well, they are just different. There are many different possibilities. You can create so many sentences because that's the whole point, right? That we can say the same thing in different ways, but they should more or less look something like this. And that's it, class. I hope you got something out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.